Hello and welcome to the news at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland tonight. A 14-year-old boy is sentenced to 5 years for killing a teenage gang rival. The 16-year-old Corey McCrimmon was stabbed in a park in Glasgow's East End in a fight over £50. We will speak to those trying to tackle gang-related violence also tonight. The food shortages in Co-op stores causing problems in many of our island communities after a cyber attack disrupted deliveries. And the first opening road bridge over the River Clyde gets its official unveiling. We will, of course, have all the sport with Lewis. Lewis, what have you got for us tonight?
Well, Amy, it's one of the highest honours in rugby union, and 8 Scottish players have been selected to tour with the British and Irish Lions.
Hello, I'm Amy Irons and welcome to the news at 7. A case which has devastated many lives. Those were the words of a judge today sentencing a 14-year-old boy to 5 years detention for the death of 16-year-old Corey McCrimmon. The boy, who can't be named for legal reasons, pled guilty to culpable homicide at the High Court in Glasgow. He had stabbed Corey in the heart. The two had been on good terms but fell out over a £50 debt. Taunts were made on social media and the two agreed to meet at a park in the East End of Glasgow last May for a confrontation. The killer came with a gang armed with bats, batons and bladed weapons. During sentencing, this is what Judge Lord Mulholland told the court.
Running with a gang and arming yourself with a knife is asking for trouble. If you have a knife in your possession, then it is there to be used, as you did during the gang fight in Greenfield Park. You stabbed your victim with your knife. The knife penetrated his heart and he lost his life as a result. You will have to live with that for the rest of your life. I told you before that you've delivered a life sentence of grief and profound loss to your victim's family. I've read the letters and victim impact statements handed to me, and they are heartbreaking, describing their loss, what their son and family member meant to them, and the effect that their loss has had on all their own lives. Your own family will have to deal with the shame of what you did.
Well, Jimmy Paul is from Scotland's Violence Reduction Unit and can tell us what gang violence looks like in Scotland today.
20 years ago, when the VRU was founded, we were tackling the issue of gang violence head on. And what we're not seeing in Scotland is a return to those numbers, those figures of people involved in gang violence. But we are hearing from communities that we're working with, from teachers, from youth workers, from people working in local authorities, that actually they're very concerned about what they're seeing and hearing. Now, that's not being reflected yet in the statistics, but actually we're very concerned. Any one child, any one young person involved in gang violence is a serious concern to us. So in order to reduce the risk of young people being involved in gang violence, we've got to reduce the risk factors in their lives. And those risk factors are things like adverse childhood experiences. They're things like poverty. And we know a report that came out last month, more and more Scots are living in deep poverty in Scotland. Access to safe spaces, access to youth work is absolutely huge, and family support as and when it's needed. We believe that violence is preventable, not inevitable, and we believe also that involvement in gangs is not inevitable. So we've got to support young people to make those healthy decisions.
This was an absolutely tragic case, and the judge said that, social media, while it can be a force for good when we're talking about in this case, it hasn't been. From your perspective, Jimmy, what kind of role is social media playing, particularly when we're talking about young people, teenagers involved in this kind of gang violence?
I'm really concerned about social media. Now, we know that social media is not the driver of violence. Other things I've already mentioned, be it poverty, be it adverse childhood experiences, negative peer influence, those things are things that may drive young people into becoming involved in gangs and violence, but actually social media can be a conduit for those negative behaviours. We spent time last year talking to young people in schools in different parts of Scotland, and they told us that they are just as concerned as adults about how young people are using social media.
What would your message be to the young people or any person who, as you're saying, is thinking or is carrying a knife, whether it be out of fear or otherwise? What would your message to them be?
It's a mixed message. One, I understand it's hard growing up in an environment or seeing these things, and naturally you're going to worry. We need to make sure that we're making healthy, safe choices for you. And actually, if you carry a weapon, you are much, much, much more likely to become a victim of serious violence than if you do not. So my advice would be, do not carry weapons. Try and make healthy, safe decisions for yourselves and others around you. But my message is also to the adults around those young people: support them, understand what they're going through, listen to them, and help make sure that their voice is central to how we protect them and create safe environments for them to grow up.
Jimmy Paul talking to me earlier from the Scottish Violence Reduction Unit. Well, you may well have heard that white smoke emerged from the chimney in the Vatican this evening. It means a new pope has been elected, American Robert Prevost. The 69-year-old will be known as Pope Leo and emerged within the last hour on the balcony overlooking cheering crowds in St Peter's Square. One senior Scottish bishop is hoping to meet him very soon.
Well, I hope to meet the new Pope quite soon. When we go out to Rome on a Wednesday, typically, if we're there on a Wednesday, we will go to meet the Pope personally. What I will be certainly doing is passing on the greetings and the prayers of the Scottish Catholics, but the greetings of the whole of the Scottish population.
Now, Co-op stores across the Western Isles have been running low on food supplies following an ongoing cyber attack on the company. The company is the main retailer in Skye, and the attack has led to a lack of deliveries and serious disruption on the island. James King is just one of the people affected.
It just came emptier and emptier to the point of I was really getting concerned when there was going to be any food to eat at all. And it's not getting any better with all the tourists we're getting for the Skye Live Festival we've got this weekend. And yeah, it's scary. And they told me last night at the store that they were going to have food in tomorrow morning, and I went in this morning as soon as it opened at 7 o'clock this morning, and all they had in was bananas and everything else was still empty. So it's the uncertainty that's really scaring the island right now.
Well, Adam Gordon is from Radio Skye and can tell us just how severe the impact has been.
The situation is very challenging for people in Skye and Lochailshire at the moment. The cyber attack has rendered the ordering system in a position where they've been unable to fulfil orders for essentials like dairy, fruit, veg. Milk at times has been rationed to 2 litres per person. Now, this has came at a very difficult time for people because of the tourist season. It's getting in full swing here. A lot of bed and breakfast, hotels, as well as the resident population reliant on the Co-op as the only shop with a premises on the island in terms of a supermarket. So it's very difficult indeed at the moment for people living and visiting Skye.
Absolutely. You know, we're not talking about somewhere where if you can't go to the Co-op, there's another supermarket down the road. This is a store, this is a shop that people really rely on. So what are people going to be able to do? As you say, things are being rationed. What options do people have?
Well, there are some local independent shops. Of course, they are far smaller in scale. People can order deliveries from other supermarkets that come by vans, but the problem is that is dependent on having a booking slot, which of course ordinarily is quite difficult anyway, but when you put on top the extra demand because of the fallout of the Co-op not stocking these items, then it's extremely difficult for people visiting the island, people living here, people with families trying to get fruit and veg, essential provisions really to feed their families. The Co-op staff, of course, are blameless in this. They're working really hard in an incredibly difficult situation. I was in the Co-op in Portree, the biggest of the 2 stores, about an hour ago, and the staff there were no more in the clear about what was happening than probably the large majority of customers.
Have you ever seen anything like this level of disruption at all? I'm thinking, you know, back to lockdown and COVID days, obviously we saw some empty shelves, but have you seen anything to this level of disruption in Skye alone like this?
No, Amy, because there is an extra pressure during the busy summer months because the visiting population means that the number of people on the island does swell considerably. But that is something that can cause a bit of difficulties for people living on the island. There's times where you go in and there is a shortage of food, not to any extent of this proportion. So it's something that is unprecedented. We know that the Co-op are working to address the issue, but there is a lack of clarity about when it will be resolved. I contacted the Co-op myself today as my capacity as a journalist for Radio Sky, still waiting to hear a response as to a bit more of a clear deadline about when the situation would be resolved. But in terms of seeing it's like before, I would certainly say that we've not seen anything to this extent before on the island.
Adam Gordon from Radio Sky, thanks very much for bringing us right up to date with just how severe the situation currently is in Skye. Thanks for your time.
Thanks.
Well, on this day, 80 years ago, then Prime Minister Winston Churchill announced the end of World War II in Europe. People celebrated in the streets the end of a war that had killed over 50 million people. Today, people across the country observed a 2-minute silence to mark VE Day. This was Glasgow Central at 12 o'clock.
We will now observe a 2-minute silence.
Veterans Scotland is just one of the organisations who help veterans and their families. Earlier I spoke to Jim Wilson from the organisation who told me why it's so important to mark this occasion.
The first reason is to show respect to those who sacrificed so much during the Second World War, both those who served in the military, those who served on air, on land and on sea, and those who served on the home front and at home. Let's not forget the sacrifices made both by the soldiers and the servicemen and women, but also by the families of those people. So it's important to mark and respect their sacrifices.
Absolutely. And in terms of the day itself, you know, we've seen the pictures of what that day was like, thousands, millions of people celebrating across the country as the war came to an end. But as you say, for those veterans who served, some really painful memories that they've had to live with ever since, and they have the stories of.
Certainly there were many painful memories, but VE Day perhaps marked the start of the peace in Europe, although we mustn't forget that the war in the Far East was still continuing and did so till August. So many service personnel were still directly involved. But from the European perspective, the start of the peace, dare I say the start of reconciliation between countries who had been at war, is important. The families looking forward to their husbands, sons and daughters in some cases coming back from having been prisoners of war and being repatriated back to the UK. These were important times. The threat to life within Europe was greatly reduced.
And important, of course, that, you know, it's not just a day like today that people stop and think about veterans. And of course, your organisation does a lot to support veterans across the country, as I've been saying. Give us an idea just of some of the work that you do and why it is so vital.
One of the things we do is to promote the Armed Forces Covenant. Now, this is an obligation, both a moral obligation and a legal obligation between statutory organisations to make sure that people who have served are not disadvantaged as a result of their service. And it recognises the unique sacrifices and obligations that serving and ex-service personnel have. We also want to make sure that the 140 or so service charities who are delivering across Scotland are well joined up so that they understand the roles and responsibilities of each organisation, so that a veteran who is in need, and I should stress that they are very much the minority of veterans, the vast majority of veterans do adapt to civilian life extremely well, but some veterans do need support, and they get it from organisations like the Benevolent Funds, like SAFA, like Legion Scotland and so on, down to small organisations who also have a very strong part to play in delivering comradeship activity and such like.
Jim Wilson from Veterans Scotland there. Now, the River Clyde has another new crossing point. There we go. The Renfrew Bridge here was officially unveiled today, connecting Renfrew to Yoker on the other side. It will open to traffic tomorrow, following the work costing £117 million. Our correspondent Jamie McIver has been to take a look at it.
Well, I'm standing roughly halfway between Renfrew and Clydebank. The new bridge officially opened for the first time just a few minutes ago. And to symbolise that opening, a group of primary school children from Renfrew crossed over the bridge to meet a group of primary school children crossing over from the Clydebank side. Here to tell me more is the leader of Renfrewshire Council, Councillor Ian Nicholson. You've just been over the bridge for the first time yourself. How did it feel to be walking over the bridge and crossing into Clydebank?
It's a fantastic achievement to see the bridge finally here after many years of it being in production and then being built and being put in place. And it's fantastic to think that people from Clydebank, as you can see, as soon as the bridge was opened, there was a mass of people trying to cross over. So as I say, it's a fantastic day for Renfrewshire Council.
And in the longer term, potential for lots of economic development through this as well.
Yeah, this bridge is primarily focused on connecting people to opportunities at the Advanced Manufacturing and Innovation District, just 5 minutes up the road, which is another project the Renfrewshire Council is delivering on behalf of the City Region. So we're hoping that thousands of new jobs will be created, and that will allow the people from the north side of the river to access those employment opportunities as well.
But certainly for today, just a very memorable occasion for the communities on both sides of the river.
It's not often you get invited to a new bridge opening, and particularly one that opens and closes for river traffic as well. So we're mindful about the traffic in the Clyde still being able to access parts of it.
This will probably be the last time we're standing doing an interview right in the middle of the bridge, because of course it is a road bridge. It's the first new road bridge across the Clyde for almost 20 years, and it actually opens to traffic officially at 12 midday tomorrow.
Jamie McIver there, and it could be very busy tomorrow, couldn't it? Now, it's not always easy to spot these little guys when you're out and about, is it? But now a new project has been awarded almost £5 million to create red squirrel strongholds. Wildlife trusts from the south of Scotland are teaming up with organisations in Northern England for a 5-year programme of restoring habitats and controlling grey squirrels. Dr Karen Blackport is from Selkirk-based Bright Green Nature.
This project's important because it focuses on what can be considered as strongholds and really critical areas within the UK for the species. If you think about the central belt in Scotland, we have a lot of greys there, no reds, but you also think further south around Liverpool and further south, there's greys that are dominating there as well. So you've got this critical area in southern Scotland and northern England, which is really, really important to stop that encroachment of the grey squirrels. And that's why we're focusing on that. And it's quite, well, it's unique. It's for the first time that we've looked at a cross-border partnership as well, bringing in all that expertise in the critical areas.
Well, still to come on the programme, we will have all the weather with Judith, and one women's cancer journey takes a very positive turn. But before that, it is sport time with Lewis. And Lewis, good news for 8 Scotland international rugby players today.
Very good news indeed, Amy, and they are all very happy, I can tell you that. Hello there. Well, it's said to be one of the highest accolades in rugby, being selected to tour with the British and Irish Lions. And as Amy said, 8 Scots will be on the flight to Australia for this summer's tour down under. Let's start with the forward, shall we? Glasgow Warriors lock Scott Cummings is a Lion for the first time, while Xander Fagerson goes on his second tour. Edinburgh prop Pierre Schumann is also selected. As for the backs, Hugh Jones is rewarded for an excellent Six Nations. So too is Blair Kinghorn, who plays his club rugby with Toulouse. The Maverick fly-half Finn Russell is heading on his 3rd Lions tour, while recent injuries haven't prevented Sione Tuipulotu and Duhan van der Merwe from getting the nod. And I spoke to both of them before we came on here.
Oh, mate, pure elation, to be honest. You know, Dewey can probably share, you know, the feeling that we had having to wait for, you know, our names were at the back end of the alphabet. So, oh, mate, so I'm so stoked, and yeah, I'm just happy, you know, and happy, not only happy for myself, but happy for my other Scottish mates that have been selected also. So, oh, such a good feeling.
Duhan, Sione's just talked about the long wait you had to endure. That must have been painful, having to wait that long.
You know, V's pretty late in the alphabet, and I knew Sione will just be before me, so when I heard his name, I was obviously buzzing for him, but I knew, you know, I would potentially be after him. So yeah, obviously when I heard my name, it's an amazing feeling, and happy to go on another Lions tour. But yeah, I guess like Sione said, over the last couple of weeks we've been in touch quite a lot because we've both picked up a bit of a niggle. So going into today, didn't really know what to expect. So obviously hearing our names out there, it's pretty special.
Yeah, Duhan's touched on the injury there, Sione. How are you feeling first and foremost? And was there ever a doubt in your mind that you might have actually missed your chance at this?
At the back end of this rehab, I kind of just refocused in that, if I could get fit, by the end of the year and play in these meaningful games with Glasgow, that, I could be within a chance. But to be, named even before that I was fit, just really happy, and I'm grateful for the trust that the coaches have put in me, and the work that I did before I got hurt. And now it's just about getting back on the field and being myself again.
And not many people get the opportunity to represent the British and Irish Lions, Duhan. Not many get to do it twice. You must feel absolutely buzzing with that. Are you ready to give your national team captain a bit of your Lions experience when you are out there together on tour?
Well, I'd imagine he's going to show me around a wee bit, to be honest. But no, absolutely buzzing. This time around, I was a lot more nervous. When I take myself back 4 years ago, I've only played a handful of games for Scotland, so I guess didn't really expect much at the time. And especially not playing in front of fans, I really wanted to go on a second Lions tour. So yeah, again, just hearing my name getting announced is just so special for myself and my family.
And Sione, I can't not ask you about what it must feel like to be on your first tour and to be heading back to Australia. That must be really special. Does it bring some mixed emotions for you?
Yeah, definitely. And I can only say God is good, and I really feel like that is divine intervention. All the things lining up for me, and I just want to take my opportunity and go home and play the best rugby of my life. I just feel like that's my responsibility now. That I've been selected, and to do with my mates is just the cherry on top.
Yeah, well, Sione, you went into this and before your injury probably in some of the best form of your life. Duhan, what sort of player would you describe yourself as now compared to the last Lions tour you were on back in 2021?
I guess, I'm a little bit more of a leader. I know it's a bit funny to say, Sione's probably going to laugh. But I guess, I've worked hard at the softer skills of my game. I've worked hard at the softer skills of my game, and I guess, that ability of, when I potentially make a mistake. I can pass now. If I make a mistake, just to move on. So I have developed quite a lot, to be honest.
Well, to be honest, I knew it'd be hard to keep the smiles off of both your faces today, and it certainly transpired that way. Sione Tuipulotu, Duhan van der Merwe, thank you so much for joining us today. Told you they were in a good mood. And there's plenty more sport for you over on the BBC Sport website, so head over there. You can keep up to speed with the tennis. Jacob Fairley is in action at the moment. He is currently one set ahead against Fabio Fognini at the Italian Open in Rome. So yeah, a bit of a quiet day in Rome, I think, to be honest. It's all go.
Hopefully it doesn't take Jacob as long to get through.
No, definitely won't.
To get through this tennis match that is select a new pole list.
Exactly.
Thanks very much.
Cheers,
thanks. Now to some great news to bring you, Anne. A couple of weeks ago, we spoke to Erin Lavery, a 22-year-old from Cambuslang who'd been documenting her life with cancer on social media. Erin had her latest scan just at the end of April to find out whether she would need more treatment or not. And now she's been given the all clear. Here is Erin with an update for us.
Hi, I'm Erin Lavery, I'm 22 and I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is an aggressive type of blood cancer 8 months ago. Over the last 8 months I've endured 6 months of chemotherapy, 18 rounds of radiotherapy treatment and a whole lot of hoping and praying. We were really hoping that the scan that I got 2 weeks ago would show that I was cancer free. I got the results back a couple of days ago and I'm happy to announce that it was a completely clear scan. I'm in remission and the cancer's all gone. It is a feeling that I can't even begin to describe, and it's so incredible. Being able to wake up in the morning and not have that stress and worry held over our heads is just, we're all feeling a whole lot lighter. And yeah, since sharing the news online, I have just received the most incredible support ever, and yeah, it's just something I'm super grateful for. So thank you everyone for that. If you are someone that is still in the deeps of your treatment, please know that I'm thinking of you. Don't lose hope and keep pushing on. I'm wishing you all the luck and love in the world. But yeah, for now we have a whole lot of celebrating to do. So yeah, thank you guys for following along.
Oh, fantastic news for Erin. Certainly lots of celebrations to be had. Now let's see if the weather is going to bring us more good news, Judith, because it's been glorious, hasn't it, across the country? Look at those blue skies.
More of that to come. But you know, I always. So exam time, so the weather gets good. I bet you got the same report card as me. Amy talks too much in school. Stroke Judith talks too much in school. A lot of us got that here. Look at these, though. Kelpies just rising out of it. Look, a gorgeous picture there. Lots of sunshine on offer. And you know what? That's exactly what we're going to see over the next, well, through until next Friday. And I'll show you the outlook chart first of all. Lots of sunshine symbols. This is Monday through to Friday, and lots of high temperatures as well. So some glorious weather if you like the sunshine and if you like the warmth. But as far as the next few days are concerned, it's all about the high pressure still with us. This wee weather front bringing a bit of rain into northwest Scotland and the Northern Isles on Saturday night and into Sunday, clearing away. And then we're looking at high rebuilding once again, and that's our weather for next week. And it's a dry start to the day tomorrow. It'll be feeling cool first thing in the morning, though. But lots of sunshine, maybe some early mist or fog patches initially. Maybe a wee bit of clouds just over Aberdeenshire at first, but generally it's dry, it's bright, it's sunny. A lovely start to the day, in fact. And the Northern Isles feeling very well tomorrow. It'll be a glorious day up there. A fresh southwesterly wind for Shetland at times, but temperatures rising here to around 14 or 15 Celsius. Now we'll see a wee bit of fair weather cloud bubbling up. That really is about it. And we lose the easterly component of the wind tomorrow, which means for eastern Scotland we'll see much higher temperatures. In fact, we're looking at the highest temperatures over at Aberdeenshire tomorrow, 22 Celsius possible, widely into the high teens and low 20s tomorrow. A wee bit cooler over the Western Isles with a fresh breeze here as well. So a lovely end to the day, a good evening for sitting outside and enjoying a meal or a few drinks, or certainly getting out for a walk. And then on Saturday it's a lovely start to the day. Again, it'll feel cool initially, but lots of dry weather, lots of sunshine, a wee bit of fair weather cloud just bubbling up once again. 1 or 2 showers breaking out across the northwest Highlands, but really it's a dry picture. And again, those temperatures widely into 19, 20, even 21 Celsius. Here's that front just lying out to the northwest, but it's not really making much inroads in across northwest Scotland. Here is Sunday's forecast. Very similar indeed, actually. Again, a bit of cloud bubbling up after a dry and indeed sunny start. You can see that front. It's a very weak affair. Thicker cloud and just some bits and pieces of rain. A few showers ahead of it. That eventually moves into the Northern Isles on Sunday night, but that's about it rain-wise for the next week or so.
That's lovely, isn't it, Judith? And we're thinking of everyone who is having to study with temperatures like that. I still remember. And thanks very much to you for joining us as well. There is much more news on the BBC News app, and I'll be back with the 7 tomorrow. See you then. Bye-bye.